Welcome back, Orleans, to more. Gabriel Knight, The Beast Within. Change my mind, we're going to actually go to New Weinstein first. And then we'll go to Heron Chimi Kumukaki afterwards.
Ludwig's passion was building castles. He built 3 during his lifetime: Linderhof, Herrenchiemsee, and Neuschwanstein. Plans for a 4th castle, Falkenstein, were underway when he died. In addition to his obsession with building, Ludwig also had a passion for classical heroic German mythology, a taste he shared with the German opera composer Richard Wagner. Neuschwanstein is decorated throughout with themes from these stories, most of which directly relate to Wagner's operas.
Guess this guy's taking me on a tour?
Did they have running water in 1886? Did they have running water in 1886? Maybe Ludwig thought all this luxury would help him sleep.
Scenes from the opera Tristan and Isolde. Scenes from the opera Tristan.
Okay.
I don't think the guards want to be bothered while on duty.
You are now standing in the king's bedroom. The theme of the bedroom is Tristan and
I'm
Isolde,
gonna need a drink for this.
the tragic love story retold in Wagner's opera. The opera was given its first performance in Munich in 1865, and a 20-year-old Ludwig attended. This is probably the most elaborate and expensive bedroom ever created. It took 14 woodcarvers 4.5 years to create this room. It was this kind of extravagance that bankrupted the king. In the years before his death, he found it increasingly difficult to find money from any source.
Guess I should click on all these pictures here.
These scenes seem to tell a story, but I have no idea what story.
The paintings in this room are from the Siegfried saga.
The Siegfried Saga. Very famous German mythological hero.
The paintings in this room are from the Siegfried.
I'm surprised people don't sit in these chairs when the guard's not looking.
This is the king's living room. The walls are decorated with scenes from the Lohengrin saga. The king first saw Wagner's opera Lohengrin when he was 16, and it so affected him that he considered it a form of enlightenment. The tragedy of Lohengrin was his essential loneliness. This too was Ludwig's own fate. Ludwig withdrew more and more into his fantasy world of epic heroes and absolute monarchy. An ideal he was determined to create in his castles if he could not have it in his real life. He only wanted to be alone with his dreams, so much so that even his servants were kept at a distance and were not allowed to look at him.
What were you afraid they'd see?
Huge bitch!
The miracle of the Grail.
These linens look seriously expensive and seriously old.
Get out of my way, Gertrude.
More swans.
This dude was into swans.
I can almost picture Ludwig in here. I wonder what he really dreamt about in this room. I can almost...
The study paintings depict scenes from the Tannhäuser Saga in the Wartburg Castle. His reluctance to meet with his heads of state and perform the duties of the king were one of the reasons for the charges brought against him in 1886. But Ludwig dreamt of true kingship and a true monarchy, and the small powers left to him after Bavaria succeeded power to Prussia only incited his disdain and frustration.
I wonder why he was studying the occult before he died. I wonder why he was...
This is a reproduction of the grotto from the Tannhäuser Saga. In such places, Ludwig could pretend he was one of his beloved mythic heroes. As the grotto personifies, the castles were solitary playgrounds built for Ludwig alone. He believed the masses were too coarse to appreciate fine art, and he seldom entertained guests. In fact, Ludwig had a standing order that upon his death, the castles were to be destroyed. Fortunately, the estate was in such debt that the castles were opened for paying tours only weeks after Ludwig's death. They haven't closed since. It is one of the great ironies of Ludwig's story that the castles that he was thought insane for building are now considered Bavaria's finest treasures. They have paid for their construction many times over.
Ready for more history lessons, class?
This is the final room of our tour, the Singers' Hall. It was modeled after the Singers' Hall of the Wartburg Castle, where minstrel competitions were held in the 13th century. The hall was built for small private concerts, but Ludwig himself never gave one here. It is said that during the last few years of Wagner's life, he came to Neuschwanstein frequently and performed for the king alone in this room. The hall is probably best known for its enigmatic wolf paintings. The original paintings were from the Parsifal saga, but in 1882, Ludwig had them replaced, supplying the description and titles of the new paintings himself. While all the other rooms in the castle show scenes from Wagner's operas, the scenes in this room are not from any opera that anyone can identify. It is yet another of the many mysteries associated with the life of the fairy tale king.
Why would Ludwig have wolf paintings in his castle?
So he fucking turned into a werewolf, duh.
Why would Ludwig...
Alright, apparently there's a couple more points to get in here. Starting to do a little research on the point list. At least I think I'm doing research on the point list. Kind of put together my own list, if you will.
This is the final room of our tour, The hall was built. The hall is.
We already went over that.
Nice view of the Alps. Nice view of the Alps.
Ludwig's childhood castle, Hohenschwangau, is visible from the
Hohenschwangau?
lookout in the Singers' Hall.
Okay.
The wedding feast of Hildegunde and the Baron.
Hilgunda.
Hildegunde's imprisonment.
I wonder where that door leads.
The closed door leads to the tower, which is not part of the tour. The king was making his way to this very door when he was arrested in 1886.
He didn't quite make it, eh?
In the corner is a brown tiled stove with clay figures of Tristan and Isolde.
Gotta make sure we look at everything.
This is the king's living room. The tragic Ludwig.
What were...
The swan motif is featured throughout the castle, but it is particularly prominent in this room. Both the swan and the lily were symbols Ludwig associated with himself. They represented his ideals of majesty and purity. The painting behind the swan shows Lohengrin's arrival.
Definitely some more areas we have to go to. We went there last time.
This is the final. The hall is.
I can almost... I doubt there's anything left in there now. Besides, the guard would kill me if I touched it.
Knock that shit over.
I wonder why he was studying the occult before he died.
Such a good question.
The hunters tracked down Engelhard and Hildegunde.
What the fuck was that? Found a new room.
This is Ludwig's private chapel. The king was a devout Catholic, as were all of the Wittelsbacher rulers. They supported the Roman Church even when other European countries were dominated by Protestantism.
Okay, there's one more point in here.
The stained glass window depicts St. Louis receiving the last sacraments.
The Black Madonna of Altadine. I wonder what her story is all about. It's a beautiful crucifix. Ivory and gold.
The stained glass window depicts Saint Louis.
A king saint? I wonder if Ludwig pictured himself that way. Or maybe he just wanted to be that way.
So this was this room here.
The miracle of the Grail.
That's the painting I would steal. Go left too. Okay, it's not the same as this. All these places. It's a fucking maze.
The study paintings depict scenes from the Tannhäuser Saga and the Wartburg Castle. The study paintings depict scenes from the Tannhäuser Saga
Boobies!
and the Wartburg Castle. The study paintings depict scenes from the Tannhäuser Saga.
Okay, I got you, bitch. It's the same shit. Look at that, look at that. I'm missing something.
There must be a story behind these wolf paintings.
No shit, Sherlock.
This is the final room. The hall is.
We got the quick escape. Okay, I am incorrect. We have all the points we need. I thought I had 285 when I came in here, but I had 284. And I knew there was 9 points to get. Ready for more history lessons, folks?
Guten Tag.
Guten Tag.
Ich hätte gern eine Eintrittskarte fürs Museum.
Ja, 8 Mark für eine Ganztagskarte.
You short it down, bitch.
So,
Danke.
bitte.
The women in this game are super snotty. Sticks up their asses.
She's beautiful.
Okay.
They certainly make an incredible looking couple. They certainly make an incredible...
Alright, here we are at the Herrenscheid Chemisi Museum, where we can get 15 points, besides the 2 we just got.
Ludwig is Prince Charming. He played the part well. Ludwig and Wagner. Ludwig loved the opera of his contemporary Richard Wagner. He helped support Wagner's music through much of his life. Ludwig considered Wagner a close friend, often calling him the great friend. Wagner encouraged this infatuation, some believe, for personal gain. Typical artist. Even after Wagner's death, Ludwig still showed signs of obsession with the composer. This letter, written in 1882 by Ludwig to the conductor of the Munich Opera, instructs the conductor to make preparations for a new Wagner opera. The conductor went to see the king as instructed. When he arrived, Ludwig was ill and refused to see him. Nothing further was ever heard of this mysterious new opera. Was it a figment of an ill man's desperate wishes? Ludwig is offered a crown of laurels by the genius of immortal fame. 26 July 1874. By the power of the lily, we shall have the strength to resist all temptations throughout the whole year. 26 July 1875. Solemn oath before the picture of the great king. Refrain for 3 months from all excitement. This oath has its binding power as well as its potency by de par le Roy, LNR, DPLR. What excitement! I need to see more of that diary.
The fuck?
Looks like it weighs a ton.
That's what she said.
Ludwig's Grand Master Wardrobe from the Knights of St. George. Richard Wagner. Ludwig. The original diary is kept in the Royal Archives. A few entries are shown on the opposite wall. I've got to see that diary. June 7, 1886. A group of men arrive at Neuschwanstein Castle demanding to take the king in custody. With them is Dr. Guden, the doctor who had been in charge of Otto, the king's mentally ill brother. The men have an order for the king's arrest on the grounds of insanity. They are refused admittance by a brave group of farmers and local soldiers who have come to Ludwig's aid. They are forced to retreat to nearby Hohenschwangau. This is the first Ludwig hears of the conspiracy. Ludwig composes a pamphlet explaining the subversive acts of the conspirators and eloquently pleading with his people for aid. The pamphlet is smuggled out of Neuschwanstein and printed, but the pamphlets are seized before they can be distributed.
He's got a crazy fucking life.
June 12, 1886. Ludwig knows the conspirators will return. He despairs. He asks his servant for the keys to the tower. The servant, fearing the king intends suicide, says the key is lost. Unbeknownst to Ludwig, the conspirators arrive at the castle. This time, there is no one to stop them. Ludwig is lured from his bedroom to the entry hall of Neuschwanstein on pretense. There, he is taken into custody. Ludwig is taken by carriage from Neuschwanstein to Berg, where his brother Otto had long been imprisoned. This is a great blow to the king's state of mind. While on the way, the group stops at Sieshaupt to change horses. Ludwig asks to see the postmistress, Frau Vogel. She brings him a glass of water and he says something to her. She never reveals these last words to anyone. June 13, 1886. At Berg, Ludwig seems cooperative and coherent. Dr. Guden writes to the government that he has Ludwig well under control. The two men go out for a walk, and Dr. Guden is so confident he dismisses the guards. When Ludwig and the doctor do not return after several hours, a search is undertaken. The bodies of the two men are found in the lake, drowned. Circumstances unknown. June 18th, 1886. Ludwig's funeral procession marches through the streets of Munich, followed by enormous crowds of mourners. The service is held at a packed St. Michael's church. Lightning strikes the church during the service, but no one is harmed. Ludwig's body is entombed in the Wittelsbach crypt at St. Michael's. His heart is placed in an urn in the pilgrimage chapel at Altading in the Wittelsbach tradition. The urn is shown to the right. His heart is in an urn. How bizarre.
How bizarre? How bizarre.
Oh my God. That's the slate for my dream. Maybe Mrs. Smith will know what my dream meant. I have to ask someone. This thing is getting too weird. Ludwig. The midnight sleigh rides. Ludwig went on long sleigh rides in the middle of the night, particularly in his later years. It is said that he suffered from insomnia, headaches, and toothaches, and the rides soothed his restlessness. The sight of the king's grand sleigh speeding through the countryside of the Alps often startled the peasants and became a superstitious omen of ill fortune. I can see why. But what was he doing out there at night? Ludwig's death mask. Wow.
Pretty fascinating. Oh, we ain't done yet.
He looks so regal. Why would he give up all of this pageantry and become a recluse? Ludwig is Grand Master of the Knights of St. George. The Knights of St. George was an aristocratic society dedicated to the acts of chivalry. Ludwig loved the medieval pageantry of the order in his early years, before his increasing reclusiveness drove him to abandon public appearances.
And Gabriel's bookstore is St. George Bookstore.
Ludwig, there's gotta be...
Okay, fucking exit out of here. Thank you.
Ludwig and Wagner. Signets and sash pins from the Order of the Knights of St. George. These were worn on Ludwig's uniform, as befitted his rank of Grand Master. They are now the property of the Bavarian Crown Treasury. I wonder if these pins have any symbolic meaning. I wonder if these... Ludwig's, the original... Ludwig. One of Ludwig's few close friends.
We don't care about Elizabeth.
They certainly make it. December 14th, 1881, Linderhof. Order another work by Jennings on the occult. Write urgently to Klug saying that I insist that the stoppages by the bank cease. I want it. and therefore it must be done. Write very urgently. He must succeed at once, and then must report to me urgently. If I give orders to clear my room, doing so must not be postponed as it happened. Pencils must be pointed without special orders. The day after tomorrow, 1,000 marks. How is Louis now? I want to know whether he looks unhappy. How often have I said that the coffee must not come up boiling hot, so that it can only be drunk after standing an hour? If any more correspondence come from Louis, they are to be burnt immediately, but I am to be informed of their arrival. These are actual notes from Ludwig to his servants. They go far in showing the king's state of mind. They were smuggled out and used as evidence in compiling the order for Ludwig's arrest. December 18th, 1881, Linderhof. Every day get up earlier, for certain. See to that very particularly. Write it down. Remember that when the great friend arrives at Neuschwanstein, we retire to the hall. We are not to be disturbed. I will not tolerate interference or insubordination.
All right.
I have no idea what that says. Looks old, though. I have no idea. June 18th, 18. Ludwig's.
Looked at all those. This is a much smaller little museum.
Ludwig is. Advised on royal.
There's more notes down here. Letters from Elizabeth.
In this letter, no further.
I'm just looking to get 310 points,
What were
folks.
his last wishes? This place is giving me more questions than answers.
Booyah. So we just had to read those letters. And let's get the fuck out of here. Let's turn it into a goddamn educational game.
Guten Tag.